For today's video, so super juicy that I had to put on my beret and fake glasses. Okay. So this is the topic that I mentioned in an earlier video in my Black History series about how the Emancipation Proclamation didn't really end slavery in the United States, although it got us on the right track. So in order to do this, let me put my real glasses back on so I can actually see, because there's some terminology that we should all look at so that we're on the same page. Okay, I want you to stay with me. Y'all, I went to Zoom and everything, Microsoft PowerPoint. I was like, I got to make sure that everybody's on the same page, right? Okay, so in order to keep everybody on the same page, same terminology, let's get into this. Okay, so U.S. Civil War. First piece of vocab we're going to look at. First battle was in 1861. And then in 1863 is when the Emancipation Proclamation was proclaimed. And then in 1865 is when the Civil War actually ended. So the United States got into the Civil War over a variety of things. Most people only hear about us getting into this because of slavery, but there were also some things that the various states didn't like about what the feds could put in place, and the states wanted to push back. There were some economic things that were at play, and states were getting into it over that. Also, of course, slavery was a big piece of that. And there was one more thing, I gotta look at my notes, but I'll get you that fourth thing. But there were four key things that actually led to the Civil War. It wasn't just about slavery. All right, so when you think about the Civil War, some other vocabulary, of course, the Emancipation Proclamation, which was the document, the proclamation by then President Abraham Lincoln, that was essentially supposed to free the slaves, but only in the states that were in the Confederacy, that were rebelling against the Union or the rest of the country. And y'all, did you know that apparently the Emancipation Proclamation was only gonna really be in effect for real if the Union won the war? Crazy. Okay, Juneteenth. So this is one of those blackity black holidays that a lot more people have become familiar with since it has become a federal holiday. But Juneteenth is actually, when you go back and you look at our Civil War timeline, okay, Emancipation Proclamation was announced the top of the year, 1863, 1865, Civil War ends, y'all, ends, but the slaves in Galveston, Texas, didn't get the word until one of the generals made it down there in 1865, about June 19th, 1865. That's when we get Juneteenth, because those slaves finally found out that they were free. By then, you know, the war is over, the Union has won, so they free for real. But they found out the news 2 years after Putin found out that we was free. All right, so then the 13th Amendment. 13th Amendment was actually the legal piece that was needed to make sure that slavery was actually abolished in the United States. Well, sort of. We'll talk more about that in a second. So, all right, so let me get y'all that fourth fact that I could not seem to remember about why the United States went into the Civil War. It was because of Lincoln, y'all. Apparently he won in the North, he won the election, but his opponent won in the South. A whole mess. So, you know, those four things: economics, slavery, the states wanted to go against the feds on things, and with Lincoln being declared the winner, those four things and probably some other things led to the Civil War. Things just popped off. But check the description box, because I'm going to include the links to my notes so you can do your own research, read more. I'm just giving you the high level overview, you know, the good old hood recap, so that you'll know about all these things. So, okay, so I talked about the 13th Amendment being like the official amendment to the US Constitution to say, okay, slavery is done. Now, what it did do was the 13th Amendment did actually end like slave people being able to own people like we know of it in that time before the 1863 Emancipation Proclamation and the 1865 Amendment. However, the text of the amendment, check it out. The text actually reads that slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment. So there's an except, there's a clause here, a caveat, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted. So y'all think about the prison system. Hello, slavery. So some legal historians apparently believe that that exception rule is definitely a loophole that was included to appease the South, allowing them to reinstate slave-like conditions like chain gangs and prison labor. So slavery, okay. So it was not allowed to continue it being slavery in the way that it was before. But y'all, Lord have mercy, slavery is still going on in these quote unquote United States. Anyway, so do your own research, learn more about it. It's really juicy when you find out about the states that were in the Confederacy and then 4 slaveholding states, namely Delaware, Kentucky, Maryland, and Missouri, that didn't join the Confederacy, but all the like hoopla that was going on with them, I know, it's crazy. So Lincoln thought that the only way really to save the Union was to get rid of slavery. So he drafted the Emancipation Proclamation in 1862, actually. It was supposed to take effect January 1st, 1863 with his signature. He saw it really as a war measure because y'all, he wrote in a letter to an abolitionist. Google it now if you want to, or check the links again in the description box. He wrote in a letter, y'all, it's documented, to this abolitionist and newspaper publisher. He wrote to him, if I could save the Union without freeing any slave, I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing all the slaves, I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing some and leaving others alone, I would also do that. So y'all makes me think, I mean, did you want us people to be free or not to be free? But anywho, again, very, very juicy time. So in the Civil War, one of the key issues was slavery. The Emancipation Proclamation was written to try to, change things, spice things up. You have to do your own research on more of that because there's more to it. I'm trying to make this a short video. And then Juneteenth comes in because there were some slaves in one of the rebelling states, Texas, that didn't find out that they was free until after a bunch of other people found out that they was free 2 years earlier. And then 1865, the war officially ends. And at the end of 1865 is when 13th Amendment is ratified and slavery as it was existing back then officially ended, but we still got slavery because of that loophole that we mentioned. But anyway, keep up with the series, comment, like, subscribe to the channel, share this video with other people, and definitely do your research.